Good morning. We are so delighted that you are joining us today for Coffee and Connect Live with Larry and Gloria Lundstrom. We are excited to have a special guest, and we know that her story is going to touch your heart. Now, before we get going, will you please just take a moment and put in the comments the city and state that you are joining us from? We love to know who we're connecting with. Well, hello, Larry and Gloria. It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
We welcome you today, especially, our guest today I've known a long time.
A long, long time.
Ever since she was born. Larissa Lundstrom is with us today. That's my brother Leon's daughter, so she's my niece, and she has interesting stories. She has interesting songs. She writes music. She has a bunch of stuff that she does, and we're anxious to get into it today.
Hi, Larissa. How are you doing?
Hey guys, happy to see you on Facebook Live here, and excited to say hi to everybody.
Yes.
Hello.
Oh, I'll tell you what. Where are you at now? What state are you in? You're always here and there with music and traveling and ministry. So where are you at now?
I'm in Minnesota right now.
Oh, with the Frozen Chosen.
Yes, the Frozen Chosen. But you guys joined us this last week, so pretty much the whole country did. So everyone was the Frozen Chosen.
We had 5 to 6 inches of snow, and we had 2 to 3 inches of ice. And wow, I mean, it was something else. But it was just thrilling to watch all these little kids. Many have never seen snow. They've never gone sledding or whatever. So we looked out our window, and they actually had some of their pet dog pulling them on they use waste baskets.
Well, it was a downhill slope, so the dog could pull them.
Yeah, the dog could pull them down, and it was just so cute. And they used laundry baskets. They used cardboard. It was just so cute and sled. So I mean, it was great.
That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, but I was also glad when I left all the ice, so we wouldn't lose our eave troughs off our house.
Oh my word! I'm sure you were. I'm sure you were.
How many inches of snow did you get when you finished?
You know what? We actually didn't get very much snow. That band of snow was actually further south than us. So it's actually, kind of went the Chicago-esque area, kind of that direction. And so we missed out, and we really didn't get that much snow. And in fact, this has been a very mild winter for us. So there's really no complaining here. Of course, for everybody else, they had a rough winter. We had a pretty mild one.
You traveled on the road with the Lundstroms for how many years? I don't even know.
Just when I was a little tyke, but after Dad and Mom weren't on the road, Dad had a band that he was a part of. And so Dad was always out, usually on the weekends, traveling around South Dakota with that band that was called God's Country. And so he would be out playing. And I continued the tradition of sleeping in the drum cases, even after Dad and Mom weren't on the road anymore.
Well, there's people that maybe don't realize that when we were all together, we had 3 buses, 3 trailers, and about 26, I think, in the total party. And then there was crusade coordinators. There was other people that would work with the pastors. And so sometimes if you're in a small city, you'd rent out the entire motel to stay there.
Yeah, there was like 40, 45 people, so it was a big thing. And when we did all the television specials, and we did all those in the arenas and the conferences, and oh my, a great time. So how old were you when you left the road, when your mom and dad, because your dad's a drummer, Leon.
Yeah.
And Leon is going to be on our program, I think in May. We're working on that date, and probably the 2 of you back together again.
That'd be great.
Yeah, so how old were you when you went back to South Dakota?
I was young enough that I don't really remember leaving the road. So I don't really remember leaving the road. But, I always tell people, because Mom, and I'm sure you know this well, Gloria, Mom was pregnant with me the whole time on the road, and her and Dad had to share a bunk. And so, there they were with Mom's big belly and me sharing the bunk. And so I do really well in the vehicle and in the car, because that's like my rocking chair, because I'm just used to that motion and whatnot. So it's a different lifestyle that people don't recognize or realize unless you've lived it. It's just different than the normal day to day.
It was really interesting because all of you kids, all the cousins were on the road. So there must have been I don't know, 8 or so cousins on the road. And
Yeah.
so you were like brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
And I mean, you were always together. And like you said, those bunks were like cots.
Yeah.
And I mean, sometimes there were like 2 in one of those bunks. And if they had a little baby, tuck the baby in between. Yeah. A real different
Well, and
lifestyle.
that is one thing too, not to be, the Lundstroms are not the greatest with understanding personal space because we've never really had any. So it's like, what do you mean you need personal space? Like, we're all in one another's business. Like, that's what we do. We're just there. Like, you want privacy? What do you need privacy for? Like, we're together. That's what we do. So
That's family.
When you got into the, when you started getting into music, now, do I remember this right? I don't even know if I remember this right, but did Lowell get you a guitar to start with?
he did not get me a guitar to start with. In fact, I play the piano. And so when I was really little, Mom got me piano lessons. And that's kind of how that got orchestrated.
Oh, there's your
okay.
family. Oh, look
There
at
it is.
there.
Oh, yay. Yes, exactly. So that was my first piano right there.
Oh,
That
that's
was
so
that was out in South Dakota. So I was scared for a second. I was like, oh no, we disconnected. But I see Marnie's putting up some photos for us. So that's great. But anyway, yes. So I started on the piano, and then, you know, you can't really grow up in our family and not be involved in music of some sort. And so, like I said, Dad, even when we came off the road, Dad was playing drums every weekend. He played drums at church every Sunday. And so I grew up singing from the moment that I can remember. And I can't remember the exact age I was where I started doing songwriting, but, you know, I was always making up little songs and, you know, while growing up. So, and I actually decided to go to school for music performance. So I went to North Central University and I got a degree in contemporary Christian music performance. I'm actually the first person who ever graduated with that degree from there,
Really?
because most people just did music performance. And I had talked to but music performance degree is in classical music. And so I had talked to my advisor at North Central, Dave Peaty, and he said, well, we've got this new degree that's going to be coming, contemporary Christian music performance. And so he told me what classes were going to be for it. And then I think it was like my last 2 years, they added some of the other classes in that I needed to graduate with that. And so I was actually the first person to graduate with that degree. I graduated in 2002 with that.
Okay, so when you got out of school, where did you head to for the first time?
Well, you know, I actually, because during that time frame is when I met my ex-husband, right when I was graduating. And so I kind of took a musical detour at that point. I mean, I was still doing different praise and worship things, but I took, as far as my own personal music and writing, I took a little musical detour at that point, and then came back into it later. So
then you got an award for, tell us about that award that you won.
yeah, so when I got back into music was in about 2010, 2011 is when I started back into music, and I started just writing a ton of music. And I had already made one album, but I wanted to go back into the studio again. And so I started going down to Nashville in 2010, 2011, making many trips down there for songwriting, and then went into the studio and then released my first album since taking my hiatus in, that's actually my second album when I released again in Nashville, but I have an album called Where I'm Going that I released actually November 11th of 2011. So I had 11/11/11 was what my first release date, which was fun. And so I released that, and then I won New Artist of the Year in 2012 for inspirational country music. Yep, there I am with my award in 2012. And then I had a #1 song in 2012, in 2013, and 2014. And I have taken a little musical, I guess musical hiatus from making new material, but I'm actually working with my producer again on getting back into the studio a little bit later this year. It would have happened last year had COVID not happened, but all the COVID stuff kind of changed some different things. But I'm going to be going in and just finishing up pre-production, and so I'm really excited about that. As far as and you guys know this because you've experienced this, but there is, as an artist, there's something about going into the studio and then getting back the first mix from from your producer or the engineer who's ever sending it to you, getting back that first mix and then just sitting back and closing your eyes and being able to just listen to the new material. So it's been a while since I've been able to do that, so I'm really excited to go in again, and I'm excited about the songs that are going to be on this album.
Well, I think a lot of your music has been born out of experiences in your life.
To say
And
the least.
let's just kind of fast forward a little bit. And so you've been here, you've been there, and then you did music. But, we've spent all month talking about love and marriage and relationships. And I thought, you've kind of been through it, but you've come through it. You're not in it.
No.
And so, everybody has a dream of this beautiful romance, beautiful dating deal, engagement, getting married, and we were honored to be at your wedding. It was a beautiful wedding, and literally Larissa, because her ex-husband had like a rodeo, he worked with rodeos or something, right? And
racehorses, actually.
Chaplain, yeah. And so she came out with her wedding dress, side saddle, right? Is that how you say it? In her wedding dress. It was absolutely beautiful. It was beautiful. And so we couldn't find a picture of that, but she was a beautiful, beautiful bride. So everything looked like it was going really good. And kind of take it from there, Larissa. What happened?
Yeah, so I got married in 2003, and my who's now my ex was actually in the ministry, and he was a pastor, and we had a ministry at horse race tracks. I don't know if people know that, but there are chaplains on all the horse race tracks because of all the, number one, because of all the danger there. And so there's somebody there to minister to them. And then secondly, people don't realize that the horse race tracks, they call the backside of the track. It's kind of like a community unto itself. And so they provide a lot of different services. And so, it would just be natural that they would have a church for them back there. And plus, they are usually racing. Race days are usually on days when church normally happens. And so we would have church service on off days for the weekends so that people could race. But anyway, we had just built this beautiful new church building there to have service in. And it was that summer, our first summer in the building. And he decided that he wanted to go to other pastures, is what I'll say. He was going to go to other pastures. And so, I really prayed and asked for the Lord to do a restoration process. We went through some counseling, and I prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed that the Lord would touch his heart and that he would make a shift and come back and want to reconcile. But, that didn't happen. And, sometimes we don't know why things don't happen. And of course, you have been married for, what is it? Are you guys close to, have you guys had your 50th yet? I can't remember.
5 years ago, we had our 50th.
Yeah, well, I forget how much later Mom and Dad got married than you guys got married, because Mom and Dad just crossed over to their 40th not too long ago. So, and, Lowell and Connie were married for years, and it was not in my vocabulary to even think about divorce. It just was not in my vocabulary. But, sometimes we walk through things in life that we didn't think that we could walk through. And, I can remember watching like television shows about, people who would be unfaithful. And, it kind of just goes over your head. But until you've like lived through something or walked through something, you can't watch a movie and have empathy to understand what it is to walk through something like that. There's something that it does inside of you. The term broken heart is real. It's not just, and there are other things that people can have broken hearts from. You can have broken hearts from a loss. You can have a broken heart from, you know, trauma that happens. I mean, there's lots of different ways that people's hearts can be broken, but there is a betrayal that happens when it's supposed to be the closest relationship that's in your life. And then somebody's unfaithful and that trust is broken. There's a level of hurt and pain that comes that you can't even explain it. You really can't even put it into words because it's so deep within inside of you.
How did you handle it? Did you go into depression or?
Oh, heavens. Well, I worked a lot. And, you know, even when I was at work, I was so thankful that like this happened for me during the day and age of the cell phone, because I would just, you know, I'd have my mom basically on the phone and she wouldn't even say anything. Like she'd be working and doing whatever she had to do. And like just having that connection to the outside world and knowing that someone was there, like if I had something that I needed to say. But what I did is I delved into the Lord. I went to every church service that had its door open. Like when the altar call came, like I was the first one down there. And like, you don't realize it at the time when you're going through it, but like when somebody's broken like that, like you can look at them and you can like see the brokenness on them. And so I know that until the Lord gave me healing, like people could just see that brokenness on me because it's this open wound and like people are just seeing it. But so I went to every available church service. I went to different conferences. I was wherever God was going to be. That's where I was going to be. And when I say he didn't want to reconcile, there was a moment in there when we were separated, when he was thinking that he wanted to reconcile, and then that shifted, and then he changed his mind. And so we didn't end up reconciling, but we were supposed to go to this conference together. And I went down there and, the Lord had told me the entire time. And so what I tell people is when people are walking through something, I'm so thankful that I stood and I prayed, because on the other side, you want to be able to know that you did every single thing that you could to make it work, because the enemy still tries to come after the fact and be like, oh, well, if you had done this, if you had done that. And so how much more would it be if you wouldn't do everything that you could to try to make things work? But so I'm down in Florida where we were supposed to be together. And I can still remember, it's one of my favorite places, this part of Florida. And I went out to the beach and, I'm just all by myself down there and I'm hurting because we're supposed to be there together and we're not there together. And I went out and the Lord up until this point had said, stand, 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 stand. Keep praying, keep standing, keep praying, keep standing. And I went out onto the beach and I'm just sitting on the beach, and it wasn't a super warm part of the year, but I was sitting there and I just felt the peace of the Lord come over me. And he said, Larissa, it's time to let go. And I just knew at that moment that God said, it's done and it's over. But I'm so thankful that until I got that clearance from him, that I stood. And for everybody that looks different. No one person's story is the same. And no one can say, well, this is how God did it for me, so this is how he's going to do it for you, because everybody has a different walk and there's different people involved. And so I always tell people, you want to just listen to the Lord and give it your everything and give it your all. And you'll know, God will let you know. And the other miracle that the Lord did too is that a lot of times when people are out doing shenanigans, is what I like to call them, they're out doing shenanigans, I tell people, they don't want negative things, people to think negative things about them. And so one of the ways that they alleviate that, and this happens time and time again in these scenarios, because I've chatted with enough people after the fact to know that it's happened for other people, is that they go out on this like crusade to make you look bad so that there's an excuse or there's a reason for why they did what they did. And so unbeknownst to me, my ex was doing that to all of our friends, you know, even to different family members, and was out there saying all these things about me. And it was extremely hurtful for me, because here I am, and I'm praying, and I'm like standing, and I'm like, Lord, like, you know, what else can I do? But when I was down there in Florida, and I was there for a conference, and I'm, you know, again, so hurting. And the Lord had this gentleman pray for me. And when he prayed for me, and he was one of the workers at the conference, but he said, God wants you to know that he's going to be your vindicator. And you don't have to open your mouth and say anything to anybody, because he's going to be your vindicator. And, you know, it took probably a couple years, but like some different people that had, like, you know, broke ties and had been thinking different things came to me and actually apologized and said, hey, we're sorry. And again, when I say that, I'm not claiming that I was a perfect wife, because no one's perfect at anything that they do. And it doesn't mean that there weren't changes that I couldn't make, or that I couldn't have done some things differently. But there's a difference between people having little things that they need to change, and then having somebody's character assassinated because somebody's trying to make an excuse for why they're doing things that they shouldn't do. And so I was so thankful that God, you know, all along the way, the Lord was speaking to me, and he was with me the entire journey. And, you know, I had to battle through, and I went to, I think to this point, I've gone to 4 different counselors. And not because one was bad and I was like, oh, they aren't working, I need to go to another one. But it's like each one gave me a piece, a little bit more healing, gave me another piece to the puzzle. And when you go through hurt, and I tell people, think that people that go to, and of course, God is our #1 healer, but the Lord does work through counselors too, just like the Lord works through doctors. A counselor is kind of like a doctor of the heart and our emotions. So God works through them. But if somebody wants healing, you have to pursue healing. You can't just sit back and be passive in the process. And, you know, when I started doing some dating again, and I hadn't been to counseling for a while, like these different areas of like hurt were flaring up. And I was like, oh man, I got to go in for another tune-up. I got to go get another tune-up.
Let me ask this.
Yeah.
So now you're thinking about, I'm sure it took you a while before you want to date again. How do you rebuild trust? You know, how did you get to the spot you say, I thought I had the perfect marriage. I thought I had the perfect relationship. I trusted him. He trusted me, and it's been broken. How do you rebuild that? At what level? You know, thank God for counselors that can be there. Like you said, each one can give you a piece to put into that puzzle.
Yeah. You know, and I guess that's the part where I said that I had to go in for a little tune-up again, because I felt that lack of, I felt those areas of insecurity rising up, and those areas of doubt and mistrust rising up. And so though, you know, that was difficult, but, you know, with the Lord, and when it's right, then those areas of trust are there. But it was a process for me. And, you know, bless the heart of the gentleman who had to like walk through that with me, because, you know, he was kind of on the other side of that. But, you know, isn't that how it is in relationships? In any kind of relationship, even in friend relationships, whoever we're interacting with is kind of dealing with the product of all of our previous experiences and kind of the things that we've walked through. And so we kind of, as people, have to have grace and mercy and understanding that everybody has a road, everybody has a path that they've walked. And I think that I should say too, you know, I don't wish anything negative on my ex at all. I wish him well. I want him to fall in love again. I want blessings for his life. I want him to walk in the anointing that God gave him and placed on his life again. And I tell people this, you know, next to my family members, my ex really did give the most anointed altar call that I've ever heard. He was so anointed. And so I don't wish negative on him. And I tell people, everybody can sit and say, well, I would never, and I wouldn't do this, and I wouldn't do that, and how could they? We don't know what we would do unless we literally have walked every single step that somebody has walked. And then in addition to that, then you have to change your mind, the way your mind works, because not only is our decision-making process made by the road we've walked, it's made by the way God made us and the way our mind works, because everybody has a different personality. So you could have two people walk the literal exact same road and they would make different decisions because their personality is different. And so I tell people that, you know, I obviously, you know, didn't want to have to walk through what I walked through, but you know, I wish him well and I want good things for him. And it's so important, you know, being out on the road and talking about my story. I've had people come up to me that have been, you know, divorced because of the same situation for 25, 30 years. And you can tell they still have not healed from it. And
Well, Larissa,
yes,
there is so much baggage that comes with all of this.
yeah,
We all know a lot of it's garbage,
yeah.
and we know it stinks. And at what point could you come to say, I can truly throw this garbage, I can truly forgive him, because it's only at that point that I can move forward?
You know, I honestly almost from the beginning blessed him and wished him well. But that doesn't mean that all the hurt was gone.
Yeah.
But almost from the beginning for me, and I suppose that comes from growing up in the family that I grew up in, and being around you and being around Uncle Lowell, being around my mom and dad, being in the ministry, like, and having been to church my whole life. You know, if we want the Lord to have grace and mercy for us and we want him to forgive us, then we have to freely forgive others. And it doesn't mean that you forget the hurt. And it doesn't mean that you put yourself back in a position to be hurt again. That's not what forgiveness is. But forgiveness is excusing them of the wrong that they have done to you and giving them the freedom to then move forward, and not hanging on to that. And so, and you know, I wanted to give the pieces of my, you know, of him back to him that I had, and I wanted to take those pieces of myself that he had and take them back. And that was a process. It definitely was a process. I mean, even in as recent as 2017, and I've been divorced now for over a decade, which is hard to believe. So I've been divorced, you know, for longer. You know, we were married for close to 7 years, and so, but yeah, it's hard to believe that it's been that long. And I just, you know, so as recent though as 2017, I was, you know, down getting ministry for myself down in Texas, and just had like this whole big, like, new wave of healing that came to me. And so with dealing with that kind of stuff, it's like layers of an onion, you know. The Lord's like, just like an onion, if he would just sever and go right to the core of the issue, you know, we'd be just laying there bloody and bleeding. The Lord's like, so he's such a kind and loving Father. He was like, okay, you can handle this. We're going to deal with these first couple layers. Then when those get off, then he's like, okay, now we got to deal with these next layers. And then when those get off, then we have to deal with these next layers. And, you know, I realized after the fact and going through counseling why it is that I chose the type of gentleman that I chose in my life, and why it is that, you know, I made those decisions. And I had to deal with some personal issues with self-esteem, self-confidence, all that kind of stuff that was even previous to getting married. And so, yeah, it's definitely been a process.
You know, I'm so thankful that you mentioned about counseling, because a lot of times people think, well, if you go to a counselor, you're out of your mind, you're a psychopath, you know, you're a loser, whatever. But God also has godly counselors, and we all need help. And there's no shame. There's no shame in going to a counselor. It's no more of a shame than somebody say you got a spot of cancer, go to the doctor and get it checked out. And if we get it early enough, we can help you. Or if you've gone too long, he'll be there to console you, whatever it is. Jesus Christ is the ultimate source to run to at a time like this.
Yep. No, it's so true. It's so true. And that is, I myself even had that, I'm younger than you, and there was still a stigma from when I grew up that if somebody went to a counselor, it's like, well, you're crazy.
Yeah.
And after having like gone through what I've gone through, I'm like, no, the healthiest people in the world, truthfully, are the ones that go to counseling.
Yes.
Now, mind you, some of the, people that have issues go as well, but the healthiest people are the ones who are going and saying, hey, what are the areas and what are the issues within inside me that I need to let the Lord shine his light on, and that I need to get worked out so that I make decisions that are based in truth and not decisions that are based in hurt or woundings that I have within myself. Because so many people do that. We make decisions out of hurt and out of woundings instead of making decisions based in the Lord and based in truth because of our past experience and because of fear and not wanting to get hurt again or whatever it may be. And so I totally agree with you. And I'm so thankful that, that stigma has been falling off of counseling. And, I've been an advocate. Everybody I run into, I'm like, hey, you need to go see this person. You need to go see this person. Because I got an amazing counselor here in the cities. And like, I'm always advocating. I'm like, go, like, you'll be better. It'll be great.
And I want to just say right here, God bless you with the most wonderful parents, because they are counselors themselves. Yep. They are such loving and giving. I mean, oh my, selfless people who are always reaching out to somebody else. So God had allowed you to grow up, because in anybody's life, nobody wants to have a divorce. Nobody wants. No. It just sometimes happens. Sometimes we didn't really know that person. My mother, just kind of funny on the sideline, when my dad passed away, my dad, was a real dad. And he was fun, he was loving, he was great, he was feisty, he was mischievous, he was all of the above. And when just before they closed the coffin, and my mother was at the last, she went down and she just kind of thumped him on the forehead, and she says, "This is to the man I really never knew." And sometimes we don't always know every part of the person we've married, but you still hold on to, because you know that God is the center of the relationship. And if you don't have a relationship with God, there's no hope, And I see people who don't know the Lord that get along great. Yeah. I can't say that's not true, but who do you go to when you have these? Here's the next question.
Yes.
How long did it take you before you were ready to trust again, to maybe to reach out again for a relationship?
Like 2.5, 3 years, something like that. I can't remember exactly when it was when I started dating again, but it took a little bit, and then, that lasted for a little bit of time. And then, I really we parted ways, and I really needed to go and get some healing again, and some deeper healing. And so that's been really good. And
But through all of this, Larissa, God has birthed a brand new ministry in your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
And He has brought you a new outlook on life. You've been through that path. You know what it is. So when you meet somebody who's hurting, you felt it. You've been there. I haven't. I can give out comfort and love and advice. I've not been there, but you know what it is. When the heart has been broken, you don't know if you can go on. You don't know if you can trust. So God has blessed you. So God has brought a new gift into your life. Do you want to share about that?
Oh, are we talking about my significant other now?
Yes, your significant other now.
Yeah.
You just met on the screen before this program.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking that I'm looking at the time factor. I don't know if he's right out there yet or not. So he'll be here in a minute or two. But I guess so I've been the Lord orchestrated our steps and orchestrated our paths and brought us together, and then we took a little hiatus, and I needed to go get some more healing, and then things have been different this time around, just because I've gotten more healing, and he'll come and say hi here in a minute. But I've been very, very blessed to have him in my life. And, I really enjoyed being married. I did not enjoy being married. I enjoyed being married, and definitely looking forward to being married again one day. But God's timing is perfect, how all of that comes together. And, and I'm so, God can take the things that the enemy means to just crush us and to destroy us, and he can turn them around. And, I had taken that sabbatical kind of from music when I was married. And then when I got divorced, that was, I was like, well, man, I got this new lease on life. Like, I'm delving into music. And that's when I really started going down to Nashville, because I was like, I'm going to delve into it. And going back to the forgiveness factor, I knew if I was going to go to Nashville and I was going to write country music, I wanted to do it from, I had my, broken heart story to sing about, but I didn't want to sing about it just from the standpoint of staying broken. I wanted to sing about it from the standpoint of having healing. And so one of the songs I wrote on the very first album, and I wrote that song in 2010, and I was, I hadn't even been divorced a year, and I wrote the song called I Forgive You. So, the whole thing, yes, tough things can happen, negative things can happen, but the Lord can turn them around and he can use them for good. And going back to what you said, when I was hurting so bad, I would tell people, I don't want to, I want to talk to somebody who has been where I've been, because if you haven't been here, you don't understand. There's a part of it that you just don't understand. And so I have, I have been able to minister and to touch different people that I wouldn't have been able to touch had I not walked through what I went through. And so I'm thankful for the road that I've walked, because of how I'm able to understand where people are coming from. Gloria, we grew up like we did. And, you come from a home where they're together and people love the Lord, and you don't have these things there, and you yourself haven't really walked through, these different trials and stuff, because I basically hadn't really dated at all before I met my ex and got married. And so, you don't have all of this stuff that you've walked through. And so, I genuinely cared when people would tell me their story, and I would pray for them. But there's a level and there's a depth that comes when you have walked through something, and you have walked a road, and everybody has their different thing that they're walking through. Even you have your struggles. So I'm not negating any of that, but there is a difference when you have had some of these different things to be able to minister to people and to be able to understand where people are coming from.
Yes. It's interesting. Our children, because we come to Nashville to record, never thinking we'd ever live here. And we came to the first trip was in 1960.
Oh, I suppose that's right. You guys.
Yeah. And so here we are. Then our kids moved to Nashville. LaShawn, LaDon, and Don, they moved here. And then before we know it, a little bit later, then we hear that Larissa moved here.
Yeah.
And so we're like, wow. And then the kids, we moved here 3 years ago. And how ironic that you live only about 7 minutes from where we live.
Yeah, and
Nashville thought.
Right, and Nashville's a big town, so that's that's virtually like living like in one another's backyard, because it's a big town. So it's been really nice, because when Dad's come down with me, then Dad's been able to be over with you guys, and let's just talk about the fact that you live really close to a Cracker Barrel.
So yes,
my favorite restaurant. So I'm just saying,
he has to be a stockholder in that, because he eats every meal at Cracker Barrel. He's the spokesperson. He's the poster person for that.
He's the Cracker Barrel king for sure.
Yeah, but now when you come into the if you're going to love again, which you are,
yes.
Guns, they talk some things that is known about a gun. Sometimes a gun comes with what we call a hair trigger.
Yes.
Very little takes that gun can go off almost on its own, but it's got a hair trigger. And so once you've been hurt through the relationship like you have been, if the new love that comes into your life even looks like something that you've been through, there's a hair trigger in your heart.
Yeah, no, that's
that you
very
have to
true.
do.
That's very true. And it's, yeah, there's just, you know, too, when you've walked through stuff like that, you don't have as much, as much patience for dealing with those different things, because you're just like, no.
Not anymore.
I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt.
Yep, no, exactly. And actually, I think that someone is here now, so I think that
Good.
maybe,
We want to welcome Scott.
I think so. Let's
See if
let's
he's
see
in.
here. I thought I heard him, but maybe not. So, but yeah, it's you just don't want to. And I mean, that's the thing too. I mean, I have even, you know, even this time around, it's like there are moments and times when I like, no, Larissa, that's, you know, that's the hurt thinking, that's the hurt talking. I mean, that's why the Lord talks about guarding our minds and guarding the things and guarding the thoughts that we have. And the enemy would love to just, you know, take our minds, you know, on like a runaway train of like negative thoughts and negative things, but those things slow us down, and they, rather than giving fuel to like the good train to like take us in the direction that the Lord wants us to go, they fuel like the negative stuff that really kind of slows down the momentum of the places that the Lord wants us to go. And this certainly is not my phrase, but you know, people have talked about that. We're moving forward. And if you're moving forward and driving forward, you can't be looking in the rearview mirror. And life is too short to hang on to things. Life is just too short for that. And you know, that's why I pray blessings, and even different people that hurt me during it, like I wish them well. I don't want negative things for them. And we as people need to have enough grace and mercy for others too, to understand that everybody makes mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. And that doesn't mean we condone them. And that doesn't mean that we say that it's okay that they do them and that they continue to do them. But it does mean that we realize that people do make mistakes and that we forgive them so that we can then move forward. And you know, my ex was a pastor. I mean, even people who are in the ministry make mistakes. And it's always for everyone but for the grace of God. And we all have to cling to the Lord and cling to him and say, God, keep me there. And you know, I kind of think about King David too, and the road that he walked. Like, let's think about if like the National Enquirer was around when King David was alive and you had a National Enquirer. I mean, can you imagine the headlines that would have been on the front of that cover? King David rapes woman, kills her husband, you know, and what would happen to that? But the Lord said even that David was a man after his own heart, because David's heart was so sensitive to the Lord, and he loved the presence of God. But even David, being a man after God's own heart, he still made mistakes. Yes. And so we have to understand that just because people make mistakes, thank you, God, that our identity is not the mistakes that we made. Not one person, not one of us wants our identity to be the mistakes we made. We want it to be the things that God's called us to, the good things that we've done, and then moving that ball forward to be the best that God has called for us to be, and to just, you know, moving forward in the anointings that he's placed on our lives. And it's so important, so important.
Beauty for ashes.
Yes, it's so true.
You know, if somebody wanted to have you come to their church to minister, could you give us we could put on the screen and let them know how they could get a hold of you? Because
yeah,
a lot of encouragement for a lot of people. A lot of people feel like they just don't want to open up, but you know what? You've been there. You know what it's like, and you're there with all open arms to hand out, to give out,
yeah,
and help them walk through those valleys. So if you can give that, and she will, Marty, she will post that on here. And Marty, you there? And have her come in, and we'll put that on the Coffee Connect.
Yeah,
and
no, my website is just larissa.com. Because I've got new material that's going to be coming out. My website says it's under construction, but there's a little contact thing there. And so it's just larissa.com. You can find my music page on Facebook as well. My personal page is Larissa Lundstrom, so there's that. And then the phone number is 612-750-8044 as far as for bookings. So 612-750-8044.
Well, Marnie, what did you think about this? Marnie's a pastor's wife. You've been married how many years?
20.
Careful, you better know.
It will be 22 this year.
22, yeah.
22 this year. So a little known, you may not know, but I have known Larissa for a very long time. We used to go and play at the Peaver House. I remember hanging out in the house with the girls. At the time, I think it was just you and Lindsay, but we had a great time. And so it was so much fun, just over the years. Obviously, you lose contact. And so it was amazing. I guess just as a woman and minister, to see the wisdom of God in Larissa's life that has really been produced through the pressing. And one of the things that I so appreciated, Larissa, that you shared was really that, and you even said when Gloria asked you, kind of when did you forgive? When did you, decide that? And you said, well, I kind of right from the beginning. Right from the beginning, you chose a posture of heart that would cause blessing for your life, release for your life, because in all honesty, all of us at some point are going to, we're going to face a hurt, a tribulation, something that causes it. We might be a day away from it, we might be in the middle of it, or we might have even been through it, but we're still being affected by, the consequences and the hurts. But we can choose, can choose the posture of our heart. And you chose a posture of heart of forgiveness and also to pursue healing, which is what you said. And so that really struck me. And again, the wisdom that has poured forth from you this entire time has just been amazing, because I wish in many ways, we hear a lot on relationships, on broken relationships, whether it's family or husband and wife or with kids. And the things that you have shared are things that honestly we're telling people. We're like, no, you need to release this, and you need to press into God. And so just thank you so much for doing that. And I'm just gonna give a short little thing. If you have a friend, if you have someone that you love, someone that that has gone through a similar experience, they've experienced the hurt, they've experienced betrayal in any way, I highly encourage you to share this with them, because there are such deep truths in here and such great, solid, practical things that you can do to really change the outcome of your life and get healing. And so we will, at the end of this, have this pinned to the top of the Facebook group. And by the end of the day, we will go ahead and post this video at www.larrylundstromministries.org. Just click on the CC Live banner. It's a great way to be able to share that. Now, I do see that I think there is a visitor that's finally come to say hi.
Hello.
Hello. We want Larissa introduce.
Yes, this is Scott. So this is my my significant other, my precious one here.
I'm
So
significant. I like that.
you are significant, baby. So
On a note. Keep it handy. Where did you meet? We only have a couple of minutes left.
well, it's we actually met on the set of my first video. He was my love interest, and so that was a God moment. So and we were together for a while, and then took a little break for some more healing for me, and the Lord intersected our paths again about a year ago. So it's been a huge blessing. So I can't say that 2020 was all negative for me. So 2020 was pretty good.
Pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Have you found out, Scott, that Lundstrom women are tough?
Have you found out that we're tough?
Yes. I think I would actually say overly generous.
Oh, well, thanks.
No, it's true. Incredibly, and tough in that regard because it's like there's no, I've actually been kind of working with Riss on this a little bit. Like there's almost no regard for themselves. They just keep pouring out and pouring out and pouring out. And it's just like, wow, it's not many people that I've met in my lifetime who push and give like Larissa and her mom and her father and everybody. They're so generous. It's crazy. And it's just like, okay, so it's good for me. I have a different way of being, and it's not quite that out there. You know, I'm a little more, I'm a touch more cynical than the average person.
Well,
so
you fit in real good then.
All right, good.
I'm so glad you were there with us. And just for a moment, hopefully we'll have you back maybe next year or something, okay?
Yeah.
Then
All right.
we'll have a follow-up. So
That'd be great.
thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here with us. And it's our prayer that you'll be able to keep encouraging couples and singles and those who've been through it all. And be sure and tell somebody to take this video and share it. Just get on there and really push it to whoever you can, because it's a really important message. And next week we're going to be on, we're not quite sure, we're going to do something special. We're not quite sure yet. We're thinking. So be sure to tune us in next Wednesday at 11 o'clock, and we're going to have a great time again. And we pray that you have a wonderful week. God bless you. Be careful, stay well, stay happy, and keep forgiving. Okay?
Yes, thank you so much for having me on, Gloria and Uncle Larry. I love you guys so much. And yes, I will say just a 2-second thing for what Marnie said. I know some of you are thinking right now, Larissa, if you knew what so-and-so had done to me, you would know that I cannot forgive them. And I'm here to tell you, yes, you can forgive. With God's help, you can forgive. So you just tell him, God, I don't think I can do it. And you throw it out there, and he's going to help you and bring you over and across the path of healing and forgiveness, because he's got great things in store for your life. So thanks for having me, guys. Blessings on the rest of your day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
About 50 years ago in South Dakota, the Lundstroms knelt in prayer to God one night. There the Savior sent us with a message that we should sing about eternal life. We've been rolling down that long, lonesome highway, traveling to help our fellow man, and we'll keep traveling on, singing a happy song until we hear God's call in glory land. We've met a lot of friends in all our travels.
We're so blessed.
We know their prayers have helped us stay alive.
And we're so thankful.
So if you ever feel impressed to mention my name, then you know it's my turn to drive. We've been rolling down that long, lonesome highway, traveling to help our fellow man, and we'll keep traveling on, singing a happy song until we hear God's call.